Evening, guys. Welcome to Football Brownie. Hope you're well, keeping safe, keeping each other safe, and spreading the love during this pandemic because we all need a little bit of loving. Hint, hint. Mrs. Putin, the Russian girlfriend of mine, I haven't heard from her for 2 weeks. Please get in contact, answer your messages. Right. Before we go any further, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Remember, guys, subscription is free. So if you haven't done it yet, then why haven't you done it yet? Okay, welcome to the World of Football show. And tonight we are going, oh, Shirley Valentine. You have to be my age to remember that. And Mamma Mia, as we focus on the beautiful country of Greece. But don't worry, we won't be smashing dishes because the dishes are all plastic. Don't worry about that. Anyway, however, help me out tonight. We have a British Greek Cypriot actor. Try saying that with a lisp. And also founder of Hellas Football, Mr. Stephen Kountourou. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. And I can honestly say I've never intentionally smashed a plate before in my life.
No worries. Stephen, I think before we go any further, tell people about yourself and why football, why Hellas Football, and so on and so forth.
So I was born in Enfield, North London, where there's a big Greek Cypriot community. It's like huge. Like a lot of Greeks from Cyprus or Greeks who are born here, who are from Cyprus ethnically, live around that area. And now I live in Hertfordshire with my family. And I got into football rather a lot later than others. I got taken to football a lot when I was younger. Like I did football clubs, and I just was never interested. I wasn't that great at playing, and I think that probably didn't help either. I was terrible at actually playing the sport. And also at school, I would always be the one to be put in defense or in goal, which is, as a kid, you want to be bombing up the pitch and like trying to be Ronaldo, and I just couldn't do that. But then what really grabbed me was if everyone remembers Euro 2012 in Poland and Ukraine. I watched Greece through the group stages with like kind of interest. I was like, oh yeah, I love being Greek. Who doesn't? And I'll watch Greece play in the Euros. And first two games, I was like, yeah, this is quite interesting actually. I'll it's not anything special. I don't know what's going on, but it's great. And then the final game was against Russia. Greece needed to win to progress to the quarterfinals. And just before halftime, Yorgos Karagounis, legendary Greek captain, who helped Greece win Euro 2004 as well, he scored what would be the winner and sent Greece through to face Germany in the quarterfinals. And from there, I was hooked. I was completely in love with the sport. I couldn't believe how much that moment had captivated me, and that what set me down the path to nearly 10 years now loving football. And
Right.
Yeah, I chose Olympiacos as my team for reasons that may not be much of a surprise because they're consistently in Europe. We win the title a lot, but then over time it became more than that. I love the ethos of the club. I love the fans, some of the best fans in Europe. I love watching every game I can now that it's slightly easy to access Greek football online, other than just watching Greece play. Olympiacos playing in the Champions League or the Europa League. And then last year I got asked by George from Hellas Football if I wanted to write for them, because I just started putting up blogs just by myself because I was kind of interested. I had a lot of time on my hands because of the pandemic, obviously. And from there, I've just been chatting with people like you on YouTube, over podcasts, whenever I can. And more recently, my good friends at Gate 7 International, who are all massive Olympiacos fans, asked me to write for them as well. So I'm
good on you. Congratulations!
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's such good fun. Just writing about Greek football is something that I'm very passionate about. And for both of them, for both Hellas Football and Gate 7, and it's been a great journey so far as a football supporter.
Congratulations! I mean, I've had. Part-time, I'll be honest with you. It was always a bit on a side, I live in Marbella, and I used to be reporting on Marbella for the local English speaking newspapers and so on. And I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it come payday when I never paid, but that's another thing. I could do another story on that. But I really enjoyed writing. if I'm honest with you. I really did enjoy writing, and it opened doors for me. Hence the reason why I started a YouTube channel. I do hope that one day I'll go back to that side of things, and hopefully work it in twin it up with my YouTube channel somehow. I don't know. But congratulations on your new position as well, then.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's all, like I said, it's all a good laugh. What the people I work with in both Hellas Football and Gateshaven, they're all fantastic people. They're all very passionate about football, and it's just great to have people to talk to about Greek football, because for ages it was just, obviously it wasn't a big thing back then, and it still isn't a big thing now in this country, Greek football. Unfortunately, Greek football has gained a very unfavorable reputation in this country. Whenever it does get brought up, it's all about the corruption. It's all about people waving guns or in their pockets, and the bribery and the illegitimacy of the sport in Greece.
Well, I've worked within the football industry in the UK myself, and take it from me, my friend, I have seen corruption with my own eyes within British football.
We've all seen it now, haven't we?
Yeah,
European
exactly,
Super League and all that.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I have gone, this channel, in the space of a week and a half or 2 weeks, have gone from the Czech ambassador to the UK, to John Burridge, who was football royalty, to an actor. Please, I tell you what, I'm not going to ask Prince Andrew to come on, but maybe Prince William or someone, yeah.
Yeah. See if you can contact him.
Anyway, I had to do a little bit of homework, hence the reason. I do apologise, guys, why I was late. I'd done a little bit of homework, and then coming back, the traffic was a nightmare. Welcome to Marbella as we're coming into the summer months, I tell you. However, what I did find out, Stephen, was, and I'm 42 years old, I did not know this whatsoever. Now, I think before we go any further, it's only right to start off this chat, really, telling people who are watching that although association football started in England, and we all know it's coming home song and everything else like that, I think we can't hide from the fact that there's a lot of proof that the ancient Greeks are known to have started playing a ball game with their feet, which has over years have adapted into a team game, and now as we call association football. But we're going back to 300. Well, it was mentioned by Greek playwright. Now I'm gonna murder these Greek names. So if I do say something, Stephen, please help me out.
No problem.
Mentioned by Greek playwright Amphides, or whatever you call it. Well, anyway, in the year 388 to 311 BC. That's incredible. That is incredible. So please, from the bottom of my heart, Stephen, and for every subscriber to this channel, can you please thank your ancestors in helping create the wonderful game of football, which we all have fallen in love with?
Well, we can't take full credit for everything, even though Greece can be credited for a lot of things that you can now find in modern day society. I mean, I think in a sense that the Chinese should be credited as well, because I think there are also early evidence that they played ball games that aren't too much like football. And obviously, at the end of the day, England's supporters and anyone who loves English football should be proud that the modern form of football it did originate in England.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, but obviously, I think it may not have been there if it wasn't for the Greeks and the Chinese.
I know. Anyway, well, fast forward in a few years. Unfortunately, I'm older than you. Unfortunately, Stephen. But even though Greece have such a rich history within within football. What we just mentioned, there hasn't been much recognized success on the pitch. The only Greek team to have reached a UEFA competition, final of a UEFA competition, was Panathinaikos in 1970 or in 71, actually beating Everton on the way to the quarterfinals. Sorry, beating Everton in the quarterfinals on the way to the final. I think they lost to Ajax, I think, in the final.
Yes,
there.
they did. Yeah, fantastic Ajax team at that. And at the time, this was before Greek football was even technically professional. Greek football didn't become professional until 1979, 1980 season when
Okay.
technically it's a technicality. Some people class it as earlier on in Greece's history when they formed a first official league in, like, I believe it was 1927. My history is like a bit
your
mixed,
history's better than mine at
yeah,
the moment. Yeah,
but
Wikipedia's knocked me for 6 now.
nah,
You're telling me this.
trust me, from somebody who's had to do research, sometimes a Wikipedia page says one thing and then another one says another thing. So it's like, what's real at this point? But yeah, so it was a massive achievement at the time because this Greek football at the time had never really shown any sign of progressing to that extent of reaching a European final. And Olympiacos had been there or thereabouts in entering European competition. They were the first Greek team to enter European competition. I think AEK may have gone a little bit to the more latter stages before that, but Panathinaikos was certainly out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's still very much held in the hearts of Panathinaikos fans today. Even though obviously Panathinaikos aren't the team that they were then, or maybe even 10, 20 years ago, which is a real shame.
Well,
and that's
the 80s,
due to,
I remember them being very strong in the 80s.
Yeah. And that was probably one of their golden generations, because there was a period in the 80s, probably the mid 80s to the mid 90s, where Olympiacos were nowhere. Like they were that was like a barren spell for Olympiacos, the longest barren spell of no titles for them in their history. And it was just Panathinaikos. It was AEK Athens as well, who won a few titles in that time. And then there was also what we have as our Leicester City equivalent, which was AEL Larissa from the region of Thessaly.
I remember. Now I know I'm probably going back to my childhood playing Spectrum games and Amstrad games. But I remember teams like, is it Ophi Crete?
Yeah, Ophi is still in the first division. Yeah.
Mickey Quinn went over and played for someone. Larissa, did Howard Kendall manage Larissa or something like that?
Do you know what? I don't actually know, but one of my good friends, Michael from Hellas Football, is a massive AL fan, so he would know.
I got you.
That was a massive achievement. That was a massive achievement. And they're the only Greek side from a non-major city to win the Greek Super League, and what was then the Alpha Ethniki, the Greek First Division, and no one's really come close since. It's all been the big four: Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, AEK, and PAOK, and then Aris is seen as the fifth biggest team in Greece. They haven't won the title for a very, very long time. I think it was, it must have been the 30s or 40s since they last won the league. But they're there or thereabouts now. You know, I think they're joint second with PAOK currently, maybe on points. And they've had a really, really good season. But Greek football has been very much monopolized by the big four, with a couple of exceptions.
I've looked back, and it's not much. I don't know if you know, I'm a Cardiff City fan.
I haven't been to the Cardiff City Stadium, but I have got a Cardiff City scarf for when I went to Cardiff with my girlfriend. I couldn't not get one.
You know, I'm a Cardiff City fan. Thank you very much. But one thing, there's no being links between Cardiff City and Greek football, as far as I can.
Not as far as I'm aware either. No.
However, there's a kind of link which, as a Cardiff City fan, I'm very, very happy about. In the 1980s or late 80s, early 90s, Swansea City got qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup out of Wales, and they played Panathinaikos in the first round. Panathinaikos beat them 9-0. So because of that, I just want to thank Panathinaikos live on air for that absolutely superb performance against Swansea at that time. And it's still, because it was 9-0 on the first leg or something, it's still is wedged in my mind, and probably will do until the day I die. So thank you very much, Panathinaikos.
That's information to me. I can't recall a Greek team ever playing a Welsh side in in an official European competition. So that's a
Well,
that's
I
a
was a
really
kid then.
interesting.
I was wearing
Yeah,
Bermuda shorts then, I tell you. Uh, right, going on, Olympiacos. We roll on now with the club football. We come to modern era, Champions League, which means at least one Greek team automatically qualifies. Would I be right in
I'm
saying that?
afraid not. No,
No,
there hasn't been the case since 2015-16. That was the last time the Greek Super League had a automatic spot in the Champions League.
that's
Now
incredible.
it's unfortunately because of the lack of representation of Greek teams that have been able to reach the actual group stage proper of major tournaments, and the only exception, for the most part, over the last decade, in all honesty, has been Olympiacos, and
But
even
but
they
if I
cannot.
can just jump in, I do
Yeah,
apologize, Stephen, right?
no, no,
Because
no.
I can listen to you for days. I tell you.
Oh, very
But
kind.
it just shows, yeah, it just shows exactly, um, uh, one of the points made with the Super League fiasco. It just Greece, whether it is club football or international football, it still should be points for an automatic qualifying. Greece won the Euros in 2004. Now England haven't won anything internationally since 1966, but yet
Yeah.
how that's just wrong. To me, that is just wrong, my friend. I just wanted to point that out, really. Just how underhanded, big boy-esque this whole European UEFA thing is at the moment. And go on, sorry.
No, no, it's a shame. We were very disappointed, not because Olympiacos weren't invited. I'd much rather than they weren't, and thankfully they weren't. Although there were rumours, kind of if certain teams didn't weren't or said no to being invited, then eventually a Greek team or a Turkish team or a Swiss team or whatever would be invited, and it was either supposedly Olympiacos or Panathinaikos that they would ask, as they have, I guess, the most consistent history. AEK
Yeah.
is probably third because I believe they reached I think it was the UEFA European Cup Winners' Cup, like semi-final, I believe, or
I
quarter-final.
remember that. Now I haven't checked that, but I remember something happening in the late 80s, maybe early 90s.
I've got it here. Let me have a
Go
look
on.
because let me
Thank you
see.
very much for doing the
AEK.
homework on my show, Stephen. Much
Yeah.
appreciated.
No, I had to do my homework too because I know stuff, and then I have to look back and like, wait, is that right? Yeah. So 1977, AEK reached what would have
Okay.
been the Cup Winners' Cup semi-final. So that's and they've reached the round of 16 of the Champions League before as well, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, but the problem we're facing now is obviously the European Super League is, I guess, it's either some people are saying it's done and never going to be brought up again, but
Oh
then you
no.
have Florentino Perez who's saying it's only in the works, and I
Oh.
hate to say I feel like it will come up again eventually.
Well,
But what?
I'm 42, right? I'm 42, and I remember. The birth. Unfortunately, I remember the birth of Premier League. What was happening there, and it was called the G14. The only difference there, I remember playing computer games as a kid. European Super League, exactly the same thing. What plot? I know what
Somebody sent
Florentino
me that
Perez
today.
is
Actually,
doing.
somebody sent me
Yeah,
a picture of that, and I couldn't believe it because Olympiacos is on the front.
Dreamcast done it in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
Spectrum and Commodore and Amstrad done it in the 80s, right? I remember Matchstick Men going across my screen,
yeah.
Anyway, but it was called the G14 back then. The only difference is the different clubs. There's no way Tottenham were going to get in there. No way Chelsea. No way Man City. You had Everton. You had Liverpool. Villa, I suppose, could have been there as well. Nottingham
Yeah.
Forest. It was always, but it was always used as a bargaining chip for the big clubs to get more from UEFA. Now, they've shown their hand now. They've shown their hand.
Oh, completely.
But my issue, I've been listening to Florentino Perez, and I don't know if you speak Spanish, Stephen, but
No, not since year 9, I'm afraid.
no, but some of the reporting was very pro Perez, very pro Super League, if I'm honest with you. I've been very
Yes.
disappointed with like Fabrizio Romano, who doesn't give a balance to any of his reporting. He hasn't done for the last few days. I can tell you, like Florentino Perez, he goes on about he doesn't know the wages of delegates of UEFA. This is a guy who's currently spending about 200, 300 million euros on development of the Bernabeu. This is a guy who's just gone to Saudi Arabia to beg with his cap in hand, and Saudi Arabia now sponsoring. Now, bear in mind, it's Saudi Arabia sponsoring a women's Real Madrid team for 150 million, but yet they played in poverty. It just doesn't make sense, if I'm honest with you. And all they want, and as a Cardiff fan, lower league, I do really appreciate the lower league and grassroots, no matter what country it is. You always should support the lower league grassroots, because that's where tomorrow's players come from. And basically what they want to do is pocket more money for themselves, rather than to the likes of the FA, who filter the money. It should be more, in my opinion, but they filter the money to the lower leagues and grassroots. Ever since the creation of Premier League, the amount of lower league clubs who have gone against the wall has been incredible. And that could be European wide if a Super League was to take off. And you mentioned Olympiacos. I mean, Olympiacos without European football, how much money would they be without?
Well, thankfully, we're quite a well-run club for the level that we're at. We have our owner Evangelos Marinakis, who also owns Nottingham Forest. And he, even through the worst of Greece isn't still really out of their economic issues, but with all the clubs that were suffering financially, Ajax had to were relegated, and they went with ridiculous, crippling financial problems. We've had like historic clubs like Banyonios, who are who's produced some of the biggest talent in Greece that have gone on to bigger and better things. They are down in like the third or fourth tier. Iraklis, the third biggest club in Thessaloniki, are also down. Aris went down for a time as well. So, we're very lucky at Olympiacos that we had somebody there to maintain the finances, and we built a model that is sustainable, because that's not easy in Greek football.
However, though, Stephen, we all know, we all wish we had money like the Olympiacos owner. Really, you would always want a return, something a return for his investment. And if there's no European competition, would he be staying around?
I think, I think it's one of those unique things where, I mean, again, this is like the fan in me, but he was a fan from very young. He grew up in Piraeus. Okay. He knows very much the culture of the club, and that's why he bought it, because he genuinely, he supposedly loves Olympiacos, and the way in which he acts, even if it's not to the detriment of the club, and if it gets very personal on his part, it is because he really loves the club.
Yeah.
So I think for us to not consistently qualify for European football, if that was ever to happen, thank goodness we have managed to do that on a consistent basis, which has been able to give us a lot of money. Just reaching the group stage gives you 32 million euros. That's a good amount of money for Olympiacos. That sets us up very nicely, I must say, especially in a pandemic. I think, obviously, if it really, really started to eat into his spending and him giving money to the club, maybe he would sell up. But I don't see that happening. And like I said, I think he runs the club too well. I don't think that would be allowed to happen.
You are the expert on Olympiacos. I'm just an outsider. Don't worry about that. But you know what? If that is the case, though, Stephen, good on him, because it's not many owners like that these days.
Yeah, but then he's also a very divisive figure in Greek football. He's been accused of a lot of discrepancies when it comes to match fixing, having bribery, corruption, even drug dealing. A large supply of drugs were found on one of his ships.
Welcome to Southern Mediterranean football, hey? The amount of dodgy owners Marbella FC have had over the years is incredible. But
Yeah, and he's not been found guilty of any of these things. And as I've said on multiple occasions before, I'm not completely behind him in like thinking he's completely innocent. But at the same time, I'm not going to accuse him of anything until he's been proven guilty.
exactly. Yeah.
And he's
There's always agendas, unfortunately, within certain circles within southern Mediterranean football. Let's just say I see it every day in Spain. If I'm honest with you.
Yeah, and I know it's quite a mixed period for him at Forest. I've spoken to Forest fans, and they're kind of not sure about him right now due to their performances this season, which obviously hasn't been great. And he did bring in a lot of players, and I think maybe, and I said to people on numerous occasions who are Forest fans, like, just give him time. He does know how to run a club. Hopefully, he could bring you back to where Forest should be, which is the Premier League. They should be in the first tier because they're a historic club.
If you can just bear with me, Stephen, I did pre-warn you. My charger. I just go off camera. I need to change my my charger for a sec. 1 sec.
No problem.
Hey, can you hear me, Stephen? Is that all right?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I do. As professional as ever on a Football Brownie show, Stephen, as professional as ever. Before we go any further, let's go on a chat for a minute. I know it's been a few messages, mate. If I'm honest with you, that when I got guests on, I don't really like going into the chat because sometimes it can mess up the rhythm of the show. But Will, hi mate, hope you're well. Matthew, a bit off topic has been said. Oh, no comment, Matthew. Why did I bring that up? Tom, hi, Brownie, hope you're well. Will, up the Cyprus, he says.
Yeah, beautiful place. I can't wait to go back there.
Hello, Brownie. Hi, Thomas. Hope you're well. What you drinking? I just bought a Magners to help cool me down because I've been stressed to hell last minute or a few minutes. Hi, Stephen. Hiya, Brownie. Hope you're well. John Wayne. Howdy, John. Hope you're well. And Finn. Hope you're well, my friend. Cyprus. My club, Mick McCarthy, has just come from a stint in Cyprus.
Oh dear. Oh, God. I mean, that's a weird one, Abuel. And they're having a dreadful season as well. And it's the worst season I think I've seen in my lifetime. They're not in. They can't. As of yesterday, they got knocked out of the the Cypriot Cup semi-final, which means they are not in Europe next season, and that's the first time that's happened in a long time. And they're not even in the. What happens with Cyprus football, as the same in Greek football, is that the league splits in half. So the top six will fight it out for the title and the European places, and the bottom six fight it out to not get relegated. And Abuel are best of the rest this season. They're in the bottom tier, which is almost unheard of. It's unbelievable how bad they were first half of the season, and they're better. They're doing better now, but Apoel. It's been a long time coming though, because it's just one of those situations like with Celtic almost, where there's no one to compete with you. So even when you're fairly average at times, and I'm not saying this over a long period of time for Celtic, because Celtic went undefeated, and that's a huge achievement. But you could always start to see with Celtic, they were kind of just comfortably there, and then once teams could catch up with them, it hit them, and they went.
Basically,
they plummeted.
The owners think, "Oh no, we'll win it next year. You don't need investment." And it basically, you can see it just sliding down when they lack an investment because they take it for granted, really.
Yes, and sometimes it comes to a point where there's investment in the wrong places. I remember a few seasons ago, 2017-18, Olympiacos, we invested quite heavily into the team, and we brought in a new manager, and it just if everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and we didn't win the title that season, and we finished third, and that's almost heard of at Olympiacos. Like, people were in uproar, and obviously we brought in our current manager Pedro Martins, who helped us progress the next season, but we still didn't win the league. But there was improvement, and then the next season we won the league, and now this season we've won it 2 weeks ago again. So we've retained the title, which is, you know, very nice as a fan. It's nice to win the title and compete and be at the top.
Yeah. With regarding, we'll go on to the national team now, if that's okay, my friend.
Yes, of course.
Right. Now, with the help of Wikipedia again, Group's first international came on April 7th, 1929. That's quite late, really, isn't it, for international teams? They lost 4-1 to Italy at the time. However, Greece have qualified for 3 World Cups. First 94 in America, then 2010 and 2014, in which you mentioned. They qualified for European Championships 4 times. First in 1980. I remember getting that sticker book, actually, in 1980 European. I'm showing my age, sorry, Stephen. Then second in 2004, then 2008 and 2012. But 2004 was by far the most successful. I mean, people look down. People look down their noses at that tournament and that Greek team. But you know what? I think that was evidence that you may not have the quality, but if you work as a unit and you all focus on the same thing going forward, things can happen. And as a Welsh fan, I've gone home and away watching Wales, and I have gone to the likes of Moldova, losing 5-1, and and I'm like, will I ever see Wales at a major tournament again?
I really wanted you guys to win the Euros in 2016. You guys were fantastic.
I was there, my friend. I was there. The only thing I didn't go was the semi-final. Well, I didn't go to the groups and then I deliberately argued with my then ex-wife. Then I deliberately argued with her. That was the start of my breakdown of my marriage. But that's another thing. But it just shows, even as a Welsh fan, is that some of those players were Championship, some of them were in League One. But if you play as a unit, we've had much better teams, Welsh teams in quality-wise over the years. But if you work as a unit, play as a unit, have the same focus, things can happen. And that 2004 Greek team was give lesser teams, whether international club level, give lesser teams hope, I think, that, it can happen if you work well together.
Yeah, I mean, that for me and a lot of other Greeks, and it's biased. It's completely biased on our part, but for us, it's the greatest. It's the greatest upset in sporting history, in my opinion. It's one of the greatest, but certainly in footballing history. It's unheard of. And people don't even look at the context. People don't even think of the context, and a lot of people say Leicester, but then there's debate in that. But for me, it will always be Greece. I think, and you have to look at the context. Before Greece reached Euro 2004, in terms of the tournaments proper, Greece had never won a game.
Yeah,
Greece had never won a game as a major international tournament before reaching Euro 2004. In 1980, I think they drew, a game, and then World Cup 94 is a very interesting story of the Greeks, because the Greeks had a very talented team, but what apparently happened is that the Greek national team a lot of the players didn't necessarily want to be there.
Yeah.
In terms of just travel and then competing in the US, it wasn't really what they wanted, and so they didn't train properly, and that's what led to the downfall. And that's why they were so poor in World Cup 94, and then there were near misses in 98. They nearly qualified for the World Cup. And eventually, Otto Rehhagel came in 2002. They lost 5-1 to Finland. Everyone's like, well, what's this guy doing here? He's not going to take Greece anywhere. Might as well just hire a Greek. But I think And, results started to improve. The final qualifier of Euro 2004, Greece beat Spain in Spain, which is a huge result. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
I don't. And then came the Euros. We beat Portugal twice. We beat the then former world champions France. We beat a fantastic Czech Republic side. To reach the final. It's a massive achievement, and we still celebrate it every year. Every year at the 4th of July, all Greeks kind of social media or whatnot, we all remember because it was such a big achievement. It lives long in the memory, no matter where Greece are now or where they will be in the future, and hopefully they'll be better in the future than they are right now. But we always remember that because no one can take that away from us, no matter what. It doesn't, and that's such a united thing that Greeks football fans have.
Well,
Such a fantastic achievement.
Can I pre-book you, Stephen, on the 4th of July this year? What I'll do, I don't know, we'll think of something. It could well be a watch-along, and we'll watch it from start to finish, or something like that, just to help commemorate what.
Why not? Why not? That'd be fun.
Memorable day for the underdog in world of football. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think it's even today, like, it doesn't really get mentioned as much as it possibly should. And I think, especially in the UK, I think a lot of England fans and people high up in the British media felt that was the tournament that England should have won. Like, they see that as England had a great team on paper. They had Lampard, Gerrard, a young sprightly Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
Who was fantastic at that tournament, and they always see that as the tournament that they should have won. And I think there's a little bit of, and maybe this is again biased from me, but I always see it as a little bit of resentment that not from everyone, but just for certain members of the media that don't really like to talk about it because it's seen as Greece just did it in an ugly way, like they didn't deserve it, they just got lucky. And there's only a certain amount of times before you can get lucky, and Greece. Yeah. Proved that they deserved to win that because they went on and won the thing.
As a fan of one of the home nation countries, Sweden, we see that resentment every single tournament. Come the first game of the tournament, England media think you're going to win a World Cup.
Yeah.
Then come the end of the group stage, and half of media pundits have gone home. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, going on to Greek players now. Once again, I am going to murder some of these names, so please help me out, Stephen, on this.
Yeah.
The most capped player, he actually played for Fulham as well, but
yes,
to me, he was the Greek playmaker for a number of years. Karagounis.
Yeah.
Where would you put him? Where would you rate him? Okay, he's the most capped player, but he may not be the best player. Where would you put him?
And in terms of best players to ever play for the national team.
Yeah, your favorite player, your best player, or what?
Oh, he's a Panathinaikos legend, and yet he is still my favorite player of all time because he's the man that kind of made me fall in love with football, and I still get goosebumps now because it was such a fantastic moment. And I think it really showed even in the final game he ever, the final tournament he ever played at, and in football in general, he played in the World Cup in 2014, and I think he was 36, 37. He was still fantastic. He was fighting for every a tackle. Every time he won a free kick, he was always fighting, and that was kind of epitomized that era of Greece as a national team. And
he's a player who was so hungry to get involved.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Yeah, and I think he's a tad underrated when it comes to European club football because I don't think people got to see him enough. I believe he played a bit for, was it Benfica he played a bit for? He played for Inter, but he was never played consistently at Inter Milan, which is a shame because Inter are a massive club. And obviously Panathinaikos they're still a massive club now, but they had a better team back then. They had more success back then. They were more in Europe, and that's where you would probably most likely see him. But yeah, I think he's a tad underrated when it comes to European football. But then it's also the kind of other half of it where he probably didn't play consistently in the top level, like the top 5 leagues. But he did play for Fulham, and Fulham fans all still remember him and love him because he worked hard. Even he worked very hard for them, and he was great to watch. I was really happy. The moment I knew he was coming to the Prem, I put him instantly in fantasy football, even though he didn't play very much. He was just on my bench because I loved having him in the Premier League.
No, he was a big part player for Fulham. He was he did make a difference when he came on at many of the games in which I watched. Coming off a bench last half an hour or so, he did change a few of the games in which I can remember. Just because of his hunger and his desire. Which is very rare in football these days, and it's quite sad to think, really. And then we got second most cap player, former Leicester player, Zagorakis.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, he was actually the captain that won Euro 2004.
Yeah.
So he obviously is very much lauded for that. And he played a lot of his football at BALC. He was the chairman of BALC for a brief period as well, and he's now actually the president of the Greek Football Federation. In the recent elections, he got elected, and a lot of people are quite happy about that because it's finally a football person being put at the top of Greek football. And this is the hope for us, that in the long term he can put his people in the right places to improve Greek football, because we could do a whole podcast about Ebo and how they've kind of held back Greek football in terms of club, national team, the youth, the women's team, everything. And a lot of the problems, even if it's not entirely their fault, has a lot of it has stemmed from them. And it's been run not as a footballing federation, really. So to have him there is a big thing for us.
Well, I was always a supporter of having former footballers go to the highest roles within the football authorities, and then Platini came over. So after that, I thought, no, maybe that way of thinking is not the best way. And then we'll go to Celtic fans will remember Samaras,
Giorgos Samaras, yeah.
He scored a few goals, didn't he, in his time, I think?
Yes, and I think he was part of the team that beat Barcelona 2-1 when Celtic beat them 2-1. I saw that game, a fantastic game. I think in the Premier League, he's not remembered too fondly because he was in that spell when Mark Hughes managed Man City, and he was there as one of the early signings when they were starting to try and be a big club. It was one of those weird things where City were getting they had the money, but they were just, where they put the money was not in the right place. And
Samaras, where did the money come from? Because you know that former Thai Prime Minister, wasn't it?
Yes. And Samaras is a bit of a, obviously he isn't remembered so fondly because he didn't score consistently. But for Greece, I think he's remembered fairly fondly. He scored some big goals. He scored against Germany to equalise when we sadly lost 4-2 in the Euros. But it was a really spirited performance from Greece. And then he scored the winning penalty against Ivory Coast that took us to Greece's first ever round knockout stages of the World Cup in 2014. So he scored some important goals for Greece in his time. Yeah, and I think he is still part of sort of the backroom of Ofi in Crete, and I think he's fairly high up there. I can't remember what role he has there, but he's fairly important at the club there now. And I remember him fondly. He was almost like the Greek Peter Crouch. He was just such a tall figure. You couldn't miss him.
Right, going back the earlier years, I suppose. I think Bobby Robson was in charge of him, man. Nikos Stabidas, Newcastle, wasn't it? He was with.
Yes. My knowledge of him isn't so great, but I remember
Sorry, my knowledge of him isn't so great. Don't think he had many games for Newcastle, but I remember because they were in the Champions League at the time, they had to rotate a lot of players at the time. So, he did have a few games, but not in the starting 11. The former Liverpool defender. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Kyriakos.
TZ, is it?
Hang on a minute. Let me just.
Begins with T. Oh, you go.
Hang on a minute. Let me have a look at. Is this? Are you looking at the national team's most capped players? Look at the most capped players.
No, search former Greek Liverpool player.
I mean, sure, the Greek Super League is not a high caliber league in comparison to the top five, or especially the Premier League.
Probably championship level.
To a certain extent, I wouldn't say Olympiacos as a team, but maybe as a league, possibly. It's so, the thing is, it's so hard to make these comparisons, so it's almost not worth it sometimes. But certainly in Europe, like, he showed that he could play and stand toe to toe against some of the big teams in Europe, and so that's when we thought, okay, sure, he might get a chance at Liverpool because he's proved himself in the Premier League, like, you know, Daniel Podence did, who went from us to Wolves, and he's proved himself and he's playing consistently for them now. But with Tsimikas, that hasn't been the case, and I'm disappointed in Klopp because I very much love Jurgen Klopp as a developer of talent, but he hasn't been able to do that.
The final one, sorry, my friend, a little bit of a delay then, I do apologise.
No worries.
The final one is Kyriakos.
Yes, Kyriakos. See, he did play for Liverpool, I think not consistently, but I think for a fair amount he played for Liverpool, and I think he's remembered fondly by them as being, like, not always a starter, but consistent enough.
A good kind of like a good, a solid replacement, I think, would be the...
Yes, and I think he played for AEK. Yes, that's what he played for AEK, Panathinaikos. Yeah, so I think he's remembered fairly fondly by Liverpool fans. You know, not as any like a world beater, but certainly as a consistent enough player. I think he did fine for them, and I think there's, sadly, again, this is the bias coming out at me, but I wonder sometimes if Greek players are given the opportunities that they possibly should get when they come to the Premier League. We don't see many Greeks getting their chances in the Prem. You know, the last one was probably Sokratis and Cholebas at Watford. You know, those were the last two Greeks who properly were given opportunities. And also, if Watford fans remember, Orestis Karnezis, who was in goal for them, he on loan from the owner's sister club, Udinese, he did quite well in the Premier League. But Greek players don't seem to be given the opportunity they possibly deserve in the Premier League, despite them being capable of the ability and the level of the Prem. And so Bundesliga, for me, tends to be a better option when it comes to a higher caliber league. They tend to do quite well there.
Some nationalities, they do prefer, you know, they settle better in different countries. You know, it's just one of those things. I mean, you know, I've worked within a football agency many years ago, and people only see what goes on a pitch, what goes on off the pitch. You know, a player's mind can easily be turned away from playing the game if his kids aren't settled in school, his wife doesn't like where she lives, you know, and all that can really mess with a player's mind. And if his family are unsettled in an area, there's no way you'll be able to get his full focus and 100% concentration on playing a game on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, of course.
Just going forward, I know that they had a great result in Madrid. No, what Madrid? Was it Seville a couple of weeks ago? But they didn't follow it up, did they, the national team?
Yes, the national team. So
where do we start?
Yeah, where do we begin? Honestly, it was a weird sort of, you know, there was that beautiful 10-year period between 2004 and 2014 where Greece, with the exception of the 2006 World Cup, qualified for every major tournament, and that was fantastic. You know, it was a fantastic achievement. Greece hadn't been that consistent in competitions ever, and then come 2014, a lot of people retired. Fernando Santos went to manage Portugal, where he's done very well with Portugal, and the wrong people were brought in. Like Claudio Ranieri oversaw us after that, who then afterwards went on to manage Leicester, but before that he was with us, and he was sadly not very good. He oversaw one of the worst results I've ever watched as a Greek football fan, which was us losing at home to the Faroe Islands, which was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment and it's probably my least.
Let's be honest, we've had that with the management of late, because so how old are they? Are they in you mentioned former Arsenal player Socrates?
Yeah.
Or they would say Socrates. How he is coming to the end of his career. Are the other players who've had a hump with this manager also come to the end of their careers?
Well, Manolas is 29, so he's at the peak. He's like 29, 30 is the peak for a centre-back, and he's such a fantastic player. And you know, he would be such a good upgrade for the national team. And this isn't the only problem with the national team. There's a lot more problems with regards to who does get called up.
Yeah, no,
and the style that we play.
I'm trying to relate to something what happened with Wales.
And Socrates is 32, but he's probably still the joint-ish second best centre back, and he's been proving it at Olympiacos. He was excellent against Arsenal in the round of 16 this season. And Silvas is at Huesca, who look like they're going to get relegated, sadly, from the Liga.
Mindset is trying to get at, even though in the meantime you will have older, more experienced players having the and mouthing off about the situation.
Well, there hasn't been a lot from those players in question when it comes to outright, you know, defying the manager or talking flack about the national team themselves. But it's just because of comments that they have made that the manager hasn't liked, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And obviously there's been a lot of problems even before this current manager, this current kind of iteration of Greece, with previous managers where there were internal problems. And, you know, there was the age-old sort of nickname of Mykonos FC, which kind of meant, oh, you know, they're all coming back home just to go on holiday, go to Mykonos and have a nice holiday. And so that kind of really tarnished the reputation of a lot of Greek. I think, and some players were allowed back into the fold, like Manola and Socrates, but there's not really been an entire reason why. John Van Schip hasn't really, you know, there's been problems now recently where one side has said, oh, I haven't received a call up, I've heard issues over other playing style of football for the national team being very unattractive. But I think, well, that's the problem sometimes. I think this, looking at a forward to him, because it's evident on the goalkeeper.
The only goalkeeper to win.
Yeah, and so they don't come about very often. And everyone was saying N'Golo Kante to win Player of the Season, and he didn't. It was, I believe it was Riyad Mahrez who won it, and I think Kante won it the next season, in fairness, when he won the title with Chelsea. But yeah, even then, like, a lot of players in certain positions get grossly underlooked because of the actions and more kind of, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word. It's almost like aesthetically pleasing, like kind of side of attacking. Yeah.
I think Van Dijk, I can't remember Cannavaro, I suppose, which would have been about 2008 when Italy won it. But I can't remember, apart from Van Dijk, another defender went to the final three of the Ballon d'Or.
I can't think. I mean, I know Manuel Neuer's been in the top three once or twice.
But I think that would have been a time where Chelsea beat Bayern, you know, because Bayern had that kind of so that would have been 2014, maybe 15, something like that.
Yeah, I think he's been there or thereabouts around that time. And
but it just shows the unbalance towards attacking players, the defending players for such awards is completely wrong. It is completely wrong. Right, we're gonna have to finish off here. Okay, Stephen, what's your feelings about going forward for Greek football and the Greek national team and your team Olympiacos?
Well, I'll start with Olympiacos. You know, I would love us to progress further with this current team that we have and this current manager. Maybe reach a more latter stage of a major European competition. The Champions League is a bit of an ask, but you know, Europa League is where I feel we can certainly compete, not to win, but I would love to see us get to another quarterfinal, which we haven't done since 1998, 99. And I never witnessed that. So I would love to see my team go further. For the national team, just to qualify for something, please, qualify for something, you know. And also because of my Cypriot roots, I do follow the Cypriot national team as well. And I would love to see Cyprus, who have never qualified for anything, at least reach a tournament. Again, a massive ask.
You have a Cypriot in you in a chat. He is a subscriber and a good you know, takes part in all the chats. You probably watch it on a rerun. Guy called Cheddars, and because he works in Nicosia, or
Yeah.
and he flies back and forth because I live in Marbella. A lot of like the betting industries are set up in Gibraltar because of the tax issues. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of them now who are now moving over to the likes of Cyprus
Yeah.
because it's a tax haven.
Oh,
I
yeah. Yeah,
used to
I know
bank
it.
in Cyprus, my friend. I used to bank in Cyprus, but then the divorce came through, and I had to shift my money elsewhere.
Mm.
But that's another. If
Yeah.
my lawyers are watching this, I will edit it. I promise I will edit that.
No,
But-
yeah. So Greece to improve. That'd be nice. A good start. Cyprus to reach a major tournament in my lifetime, which hopefully can happen. And for Greek football, I think it's in quite a low place at the moment because Greece in the coefficient of the league coefficient is, I think they're 20th right now, which is an all-time low. You know, at one point Greece, the league was 6th in Europe, and that's where Portugal are now. So just to be outside the top 5 was a massive thing. We had 3 Greek teams qualifying for Europe, so I would love to see progression and just see the Greek league improve and just see us fly back up the coefficient table to a more reasonable place. And just for Greek football to feel like it's progressing and not regressing, which is what has happened over the last few years.
And where can people find you, Stephen?
Well, whoever wants to read a really, really long blog about a team you've never heard of, you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram with the Twitter with the handle on here right now at Steve Kountourou, with my long surname. You can also find me on Hellas Football with the handle at Hellas Footy, and they have a Twitter account, Instagram account, Facebook account, YouTube account, and we also do a weekly podcast on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. And then with Gate 7, you can also find them on Twitter at Gate7INTL, and on Insta and on, I believe on Facebook, and we have a website as well.
If you can send all the
there's a lot. But yeah, to follow both of them.
Details to me. I'll copy them all and put it in description as well.
Yes, all right, mate. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Because I tell you what, Stephen, and this is God's gospel truth. I mean, first week we went there, we spoke to someone who knows Romanian football. Last week it was Jamaican football. This week now Greece. I'm hoping next week will be Russia, but because the issues with the Super League, he had to postpone it. The idea behind the World of Football show is to give people the knowledge that there's more to football than the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A. It is the world of football.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
So the more people can realize that and have a more open mindset to football within our beautiful world, the better. And Greek football, as we mentioned right at the beginning, the country of Greece helped form the game we all love, which is football. So thank you very much appreciated. Thanks for joining, Stephen. And good luck for the future. Good luck with your new role as well.
Thank you so much.
And good luck to Panathinaikos. No, I'm only joking.
Oh dear.
Okay, you take care, my friend. Many thanks.
Thank you, man. Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.